Hi everyone, I've been thinking again on this technique that's gone pretty viral of putting raindrops into your resin. Here's an example of one I made last night, and it got me thinking, these beautiful little raindrops, can we put something in them? Particularly when I made this one, which I tried out putting a great big drop in the top. That's kind of weird, and I wondered, can we put something in it? So the obvious thing to put in what looks like drops of water is fish. So I've got here some fish. These are some tiny little koi carp, all painted in proper colours of proper breeds of koi. So I thought we could try those. And I've got some tiddy little goldfish and things in this one as well. We've got some little tiny orandas and such like. So let's see how we get on. I've got my high viscosity UV resin at the ready. I've got a coaster mould because that seems to be the easiest shape to work with for this experiment. And then I think I'll do like watery mica powders or something at the back. I'm still thinking on this. So watch this space. Right, let's get on. Here we go then. For the benefit of those of you who haven't seen how the water droplet effect works, this is what we do. I've got my little ultraviolet lamp at the ready here. What we're doing is we're going to put some drops, and these are going to need to be quite big for this particular project. So we're going to put some drops all over this mould, straight onto the mould. Now be warned, it doesn't do your mould a lot of good. I think I have ruined a holographic mould doing this. Now, as you can see, I'm doing some quite big drops here because these are the ones that are going to have the fish in. This is going to be a very big one. I'm also going to put some small ones. Oh, now don't forget, if you make a mess with any of these, you can just get it off. You see, I've gone over a little bit there. It's got a little tail. Get rid of that. These micro brushes are dead handy. I'll put you the link for these below. As usual, there will be links for everything down below. Yeah, that one I've made a bit of a mess. What I can do is cure it and pick that one off, and I'll do a fresh blob for that. If you wanted smaller blobs, you can put them in a bottle with a needle tip, put the resin in that, and then you get smaller blobs. But for this one, I wanted quite big blobs, partly because some are going to house the fish, and partly because, well, it makes it nice and visible what I'm doing for you guys watching on the video. I do want them to be reasonably round, but I'm not too worried if they're not quite. A little brush again, see if I can get that off without having to cure it and pick it off and spoil it. Let's get a little bit of alcohol in a pot. Little tip for you, if you get resin or mica anywhere you didn't want it, a micro brush, a little bit of alcohol on it will help you to clean up. For this particular technique, you do want it reasonably clean in between the blobs. Because otherwise you're gonna lose the effect. Right, that'll cure off. Okay, so we've got some blobs. Let's do another couple. Now what I'm thinking with these is that I'm going to need to push the fish in because I don't want to sink to the bottom. So I'm going to push the fish in quite early on. Let's do another nice big blob here before I cure it up, but then crack on and cure it up quite quickly. So let's decide on which fish, and I think I'm actually going to go for the koi. And my favourite breeds of koi in my pond are Perichinas, gold ogons as well, tanchos. The only thing, and ghost koi actually, the only thing is they're not going to show up so well in this mould. So the one that works nicely in stuff, because it's really visible, is a shower. So let's have a couple of showers. We will have a tancho. That's the one that looks like it's got the Japanese flag on his head. Big red spot. Let's have a tan show. And maybe something like a... I don't want to go completely out of the red and white and black theme, actually. Do I? So let's have a... Excuse me, just thinking out loud. Let's have a couple of Beckos, black and white Beckos. Going to need some tweezers to put these in with, and don't forget they're going to have to be upside down, because what we're looking at here is the back. So I'm hoping these will be big enough to put, I don't know how many of these in. Going to try and get 2. Oops, that one wants to go there, obviously. That's not big enough for you. Yeah, these fish are bigger than I thought. Which is not a problem. Just going to make the bubble bigger. And what you'll see is I probably need to make the bubbles deeper too, because I'm going to need to cover a little bit behind them. Actually, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make them a funny shape. I just need to remember to cure it quickly before it runs into the other bubbles, or raindrops as they were originally. Incidentally, if you want to see more on the raindrop effect, I've got some more videos in my playlists. Also, Tea and Art are probably the ones most recently coming up with all the ideas on these. And also Claire's Crafty Corner has been going crazy with some sci-fi themed ones, like comet trails and all sorts of things she's got going on there. And Daniel Cooper's been doing some nice ones as well with holographics and things like that. So there's a lot of experimenting with this technique going on at the moment. Seems to be like the hot thing. Here we go. Probably got resin all over my tweezers. Oh, that one has blended into the next blob next to it. Oh well. And that one's lost his side fins, but it doesn't matter. Fish flick their fins in as they swim, don't they? That'll do, I think. So I'm now going to just make sure they're pushed down a bit. Don't necessarily need them central in the little bubble. And I'm just putting a bit of resin over the back, which will, of course, make the bubble go deeper and bigger. You'll see I'm using the high viscosity resin from J. Diction. And that is simply because I think the higher viscosity will allow me to dome these up a bit more than the normal viscosity UV resin would. Which for this, as you can see, is something I do need to do. Just want to make sure the little fish is covered from underneath as well. Don't want him to look like he's stuck to the bottom. I want him to look like he's swimming over it. Oh, and some of these are blending into each other because I've put so much in now. It doesn't matter. It looks like a little pond system, doesn't it? Okay, I quite like the way they're looking at the moment, actually. So let's get that curing. I'm going to leave the lamp on it for a good while, make sure that's thoroughly cured up before we do the next stage. So I'll be back with you in a bit. So as you can see, I'm giving this a blast with the ultraviolet light from the back as well. I very often put mirrors underneath to help with curing the back while I'm curing the front, but as this is a clear mould anyway, and these fish are quite big, not are they, but you know what I mean, they're quite a big blockage to the light. I thought I'd turn it over and do it properly. Now I'm starting to get a sense of what this is going to look like, so that's kind of fun, isn't it? So So what I've decided while that was curing, and I've given it a good 5 minutes to make sure, because I think last time I did this I didn't leave it to cure for quite long enough and they ended up sticky. So yes, while it's been curing I've sorted out what colours I want to use, and I've got some like kind of nail art powders, and I've got various shades of kind of blues and greens from my Let's Resin collection. So we're going to run those through. Now remember what you put on first, what's in connection directly with the resin, with the silicone, that is what's going to show through. And I found in my nail art collection these flakes, and I thought that is just crying out to be used in something like this. So I'm actually going to put quite a lot of these. So as you can see, look, straight through the middle, lots of them. That might be too much, in fact. I thought that would be a really good basis. I can't find these flakes anymore, by the way. I've had them so long. I've looked, so I can't put you the link. What I will try and do though is find you something similar, because I know people are going to want to get those. So I'll have a good route around on Amazon and places like that and see if I can source similar for you. And they're sticking really nicely. I mean, that's what they're designed to do. But I didn't want to go completely all over with these. So I'm going to tap some of that out to one side. There we go. You can see that's rather lovely already. But I did want to make sure I got in with some of the greeny blues. As you can see, I'm just using a big old makeup brush for this, because I don't need to be very detailed at all. I'm just getting it in there. And there's no worries about going over what I've already done. Actually, you know what? I think I might be leaving it at just these two colours. I think that's going to look lovely. Yeah, what was I? No harm in going over what you've already done, because, of course, it's you're not going to see it. It's what's in contact with the silicone, as I said earlier, that you will see. Now, it's not sticking terribly well to the bubbles. The smaller bubbles it is, but not the bigger bubbles. Isn't that odd? I don't know why. These usually stick really, really well. Anyway, not to worry, because I'm going to put black, there we are, put black behind this, so all of that will pop and ping anyway. So the next job then, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at those two colours. The next job's going to be to mix up some resin. So I've got my little pot ready. I'll be using the resin that I've been using a lot lately. That is the Vista 1 that I'm still enjoying playing with. So I'm just going to mix that up, put some black in and leave it to cure. Might put a bit of the blue sparkle in the back of it too, just to, you know, give it a bit of extra interest. Not quite sure how much these moulds need. They're not very deep. So I'm just going to mix up 20 millilitres. So 10 of each, because this is a 1-to-1 resin. There we are. I'd say so far I'm pretty impressed with this resin. It does seem quite nice to use. I'm finding you do have to be more accurate with your measuring than I have done with other brands in the past. They're a bit more forgiving if I get the measurements slightly off. This I have to pay attention a little bit more. So I'm just going to stir this up, add a dollop of black and pour it in. Bit of the flaky glitter too, why not? And we'll be back for the demould. Okay, our fishy droplets. As usual, I'm demoulding this a little bit early, which is why I've still got my gloves on. Bear in mind, resin is still curing for a good few hours after you demould it sometimes, particularly if you're demoulding it a bit early and it's a bit soft like this. So it's still not the greatest of things to handle. So I'm keeping my gloves on. I do forget sometimes, I know. This mould, I think, might be past it now. It was an old mould anyway, but I've got a little split in it, look. And the droplet effect does tend to wreck mould. So let's go ahead and take this out of the mould and we'll see how it looks. We'll also have a look and see how much it's damaged the mould, if it has. Right, so yes, it actually hasn't left marks on the mould like I thought it would. There's glitter all over it, but anyway. So I'll use that mould for mixing paint on and things like that as it's split. Right then, you see how the glitter came up onto the back of the mould? It's quite pretty in itself, isn't it? Got a little lip around the edge, which I'll sand off. Then I'll probably put some little rubber dots on it as little feet. Right, are we ready? Let's see what it looks like. Oh, yes. Teeny tiny fish ponds. I love it. Oh, that's a fun one. Yes, that's a fun one. I'm pleased with that. So again, I'm gonna let this sit, and so it's fully firmed up, and I'll get some photos. It's gonna be a bit dark. I'll get some proper photos done, and I'll share them on the end of this video when we've got some proper light for me to take the photos in. That is lovely. Thanks all then. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, because that will help me to keep you informed of what's coming up for you. And if there's any other funny little harebrained schemes you'd like me to have a go at, let me know. As you can see, I'll have a go at most things. Thanks everyone. Bye.